In today's video, we have big news from the NHL waiver wire with Maple Leafs forward Nick Ritchie being placed on waivers. Plus, we're taking a look at some NHL trade rumors. We have the latest top 20 list from DailyFaceoff.com. Plus, we're taking a look closely at the Philadelphia Flyers and some top players like Claude Giroux and even Ivan Provorov. Where do the Flyers go from here? Plus, we have some interesting news on a KHL free agent that's coming up who's likely going to the Olympics for Team Russia. He may be coming to the NHL soon. The Senators are believed to be in the mix. Plus, we have other updates as well, including some injury updates and more. All of that coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a variety of NHL news and rumors to talk about here today. Let's kick things off with the big news out of Toronto that they've placed forward Nick Ritchie on the NHL waiver wire. Of course, he still has another year on his contract at $2.5 million after the current season. He signed a 2-year free agent contract with the Maple Leafs this past offseason. Many viewed him as being the potential replacement for Zach Hyman in the top 6, and that really has not been an experiment that has gone incredibly well. Many of the other free agent signings that the Leafs and Kyle Dubas signed this offseason, including Michael Bunting and David Kampf and Kasha, they've all been real solid finds for the Leafs and have worked out incredibly well. But Ritchie is the one from this past offseason that just has not. He has 1 goal in 30 games, had a lot of opportunity early on with the Matthews line, has been moved around, has gradually been decreased his role, averaging about 7, 8, maybe as no more than about 10 minutes a game now, oftentimes playing like 3rd, 4th line minutes, and just not really working out. His career high in goals is 15, which he achieved last year with the Boston Bruins. I know even the Bruins fans that weren't overly sad that he left as a free agent this past offseason. I was a little surprised to see him go with Toronto, but I do understand the appeal. I mean, he is a big body, good net front presence. I thought he would do better on the power play, but just really hasn't been able to take advantage of the opportunities given. It's kind of the way Sheldon Keefe, the head coach of the Leafs, has summed it up, which makes a lot of sense. So to me, I'll say that there's a chance he could get picked up. It's only $2.5 million, but the fact he has another year and has 1 goal in the season, probably a decent detractor from teams making that claim. So more than likely he clears and he can either be assigned to the taxi squad or down to the minors with the Marlies. Probably would go to the taxi squad, and that would give them a little over $1 million in salary cap relief as well if he does clear and get demoted. If he's claimed, they'll get $2.5 million in cap space, which is good. Either way, it gets them to a situation where they can accrue some more cap space towards the end of the year for deadline acquisitions. Many feel that they're probably not going to do anything significant at the deadline. Dubas and the Leafs are probably going into the playoffs, barring injury, of course, with what they have, but to probably add a little bit of depth, most likely on the blue line. I mean, at one point, we were hearing a lot of talk about guys like Hall or Dermott being moved. That's probably less likely at this point. If anything, they may add a veteran defenseman, to have some extra depth back there for the playoffs. So we'll see where this goes. We'll find out that tomorrow afternoon if Nick Ritchie is still a Maple Leaf or if indeed he's been claimed or not. But interesting situation there to watch develop. Of course, yesterday we had players on waivers, which was Riley Nash out of Tampa, the veteran 4th line center, has been claimed. He's now a member of the Arizona Coyotes. Of course, the Coyotes are a team that's had their fair share of injuries and issues like many teams this year. They did announce today that Jay Beagles is going to be out for pretty much the rest of the year. It's not a guarantee he might be back before it's over, but it is possible his season is over. So Nash should be able to come in and play a similar type of role. Hard to say if he sticks there, but at least I think there's a better chance he stays in Arizona than he was going to get in Tampa or in Winnipeg. It was a little surprising in a way that the Jets put him on waivers a while back, but we'll see. Of course, Tampa put him on waivers to make room for the returning Nikita Kucherov, who's going to be suiting up in their game this evening. So certainly it was more about a roster spot than anything else when it comes to Nash's play. And of course, Arizona could keep him, and maybe if he can play well enough and get a big enough role, maybe they can find a way to flip him and turn him into maybe a late round pick, 5th, 6th rounder or something like that at the deadline. We'll see. Hard to say, but he certainly hasn't been able to stick anywhere for the current season. Now, of course, besides Kucherov coming back, Nico Hischier's also coming back for the Devils. So that injury was short-lived. As I mentioned, they had a pile of bad news a few days ago. So getting their captain Hischier back, that quickly is good. Obviously, they still have issues when it comes to Dougie Hamilton, with the broken jaw. And, of course, Jonathan Bernier has never really got his game going this year. Is going to be out for the season with hip surgery. So that's certainly not good either. Now, when it comes to another signing to keep an eye on here, is Tuuka Rask has officially signed with the Bruins, but it's not an NHL deal. It is an AHL tryout contract with their AHL team, the Providence Bruins. He was scheduled to play a couple of games starting this weekend, and those games now for Providence have actually been postponed, so I'm not sure exactly what that means for the plan when it comes to Rask. Obviously, they're going to have to, make some adjustments here. But the plan was to play 2 games, and then from there, it's possible that he could be signing an NHL contract. But he can this way he can get some games in. They can have a chance to see him in game action before they commit to him, and we'll see. The big question is it only going to be for the rest of the year, or will it be multi-year? Many feel it's likely only going to be a contract for the current season. Probably maximum of about $2 million is what some of the NHL reporters and experts feel like it's going to be. So we'll have to see on that. I mean, what happens with Jeremy Swayman and Linus Ullmark? I mean, Swayman is waivers exempt, so he can go to the minors. As much as he really doesn't deserve to based on his play, it's the path of least resistance in that regard. But Jeremy Swayman will not be able to be on a taxi squad because with the rules that they have around a taxi squad this year, you do have to be a waiver-eligible player to be on that. So he'll have to go down and play in Providence, and they'll have Rask and Ullmark in the NHL, assuming once that is official, and Tuuka Rask has got his NHL contract, but we'll have to get these couple games in first. It could very well be later in January, assuming everything goes well before he's signed. Hard to say exactly. There's no really big rush in that regard, but obviously they're going to want to get him some reps and get some game action in before it gets too late in the year to make sure that he's ready for the playoffs, because that's obviously where the Bruins are attempting to go and see if they can, make another run here, even though it's not going to be an easy task. Now, when it comes to the Olympics, we know the NHL players aren't going. There's still a lot of speculation on who will be going, but it does sound like some of the top prospects are being heavily considered for teams like Team Canada and Team USA. Not really sure when it comes to the European countries, but there is word that some players from the junior team that was at the World Juniors, like Owen Power, the number 1 pick from last year's draft for the Buffalo Sabres, is on Team Canada's list, as is Mason McTavish as well. So we'll see. No guarantee yet that they go. McTavish there could be some resistance there too, because where he technically is under NHL contract, but Powers right now NHL drafted but not signed, so he can definitely go 100% in the. I believe they've already made the announcement from Michigan where he's playing that they certainly support that. At least I do believe. So another player as well is Jake Sanderson, captain from Team USA, so top prospect for the Senators. The Senators have already made it known that they have no issue with him going. But of course, again, these guys play U.S. college hockey, so they haven't signed NHL contracts yet. So there's certainly no issues at all with them going. But there are many other prospects that have been drafted too, like that were in the junior tournament, that are being considered. So we'll see where that goes as well. Now, when it comes to another player that's likely going to be in the Olympics for Team Russia, and it's a potential free agent coming up here with the KHL when their season ends here in a few months' time, and that's Andrei Kuzmenko. Now, Kuzmenko is a pretty highly sought-after player. Is getting a lot of attention from NHL teams. Going to be, obviously, playing in the Olympic tournament, so certainly going to have a lot more eyeballs on him there as well. But it is believed that the Ottawa Senators, I know they're not the only ones by any means. They have a lot of competition here, but they do have some meetings lined up to talk to him. Apparently, he is a former teammate of Artem Zub. Kuzmenko is a fairly offensively gifted player in a lower scoring league in the KHL. Doesn't mean automatically that it's going to translate to the NHL. We've seen some other guys come over and struggle and not have it work out. But right now he's put up 52 points in 42 games. Looks like he's got some pretty silky hands and can be a pretty decent goal scorer, and has a potential at least. Teams are looking at him thinking that he has top 6 potential. So I know with the Senators, especially with where things are at with their rebuild, they could certainly use another dynamic player and to fill out the rest of their top six. So it's certainly why they're pushing to get this, possibly get him signed. Now, because of his age, where he's a little bit older as well, he's eligible only for a 1-year contract. So again, teams can sign him. There's no long-term commitment. Same sort of thing that they did with Zub. They can sign him to a short-term deal. If it works out, they can try to extend him before the contract expires and go from there. But at least they don't have to be, he won't have to sign like a 3-year entry-level contract and wait to get their bigger money. I don't imagine he'll make a ton of money off the hop. He'll have to come in and prove himself, I would think, would be the thought process here before we get him a longer term or bigger money contract. Now, before we jump into the rest of the video, though, I do need to pause for a moment and acknowledge our channel sponsor, Manscaped. Top Shelf Hockey is proud to be sponsored by Manscaped. And guess what? Hockey fans are buzzing because hockey is back. Want to know what else is buzzing? The Lawnmower 4.0 from our friends at Manscaped, who are the global leaders in male grooming, trusted by over 2 million men worldwide. I highly recommend the Performance Package 4.0, which includes their new state-of-the-art Lawnmower 4.0, as well as some other great features. The lawnmower itself has a 7,000 RPM motor, a new multifunction switch that can engage as a travel lock, gives you the ability to turn on an LED spotlight as well for a more precise shave. Also, as I've mentioned on numerous occasions before, Manscaped is about much more than just a trimmer. They have everything, all aspects covered in male grooming, including some great formulations like their brand new ultra premium body wash to keep you smelling great all day long. It's certainly a big hit here. I absolutely love it. They also have other exfoliators and gels to keep all aspects of your grooming needs covered. I highly recommend you check out manscaped.com. Use promo code TSH for 20% off and free shipping. That's 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com using promo code TSH. So thanks very much for watching that promotional content. I do greatly appreciate it. Manscaped has come out with a slew of new products here as of late, including their really great body wash, shampoo and conditioner, as well as lip balm. And there's a new product coming out as well later in January. So I certainly highly recommend you check them out. They are a lot more when it comes to men's grooming than just the trimmers. That's certainly what they're most known for, but a lot more to it. And I highly recommend you check out their site and consider using our promo code for 20% off. Now, into the rest of the video, I do want to take a look at some trade talk. Focus on the Flyers, but I also want to take a quick peek at an article from Frank Saravalli at DailyFaceoff.com today. When it comes to the Flyers, I heard Elliot Friedman talking today with Jeff Merrick on the Jeff Merrick Show on the Sportsnet Radio, talking about Claude Giroux and Ivan Provorov in Philadelphia. And Friedman came out and said if he was a betting man, that he would bet Giroux is traded this year. Of course, the Flyers are a team that's certainly not having a good year, and they really need to figure things out long term. Like, who are they, where are they going, and what does it mean for what they have to do to get there? And at the end of the day, Giroux is a pending UFA, hasn't won a Stanley Cup yet, has accomplished a lot in his career, certainly been a phenomenal Philadelphia Flyers player and captain for a long time. I know there's been a lot of linkage of him eventually going back to play at home in Ottawa, but there's no guarantee that happens. They certainly wouldn't trade for him this year. That wouldn't make sense on their part, but it could be a potential UFA conversation if and when that happens, or if he's on the market. And it could even be a situation, even with the Flyers, if they decide that they do want to consider Giroux to be a part of their future, that maybe they trade him, get a decent return, and then talk to him in the summer about re-signing. That's not out of the realm of a possibility here. So, Giroux is having a real solid year. He can still play. There's been already other talks and rumors before that there's a bunch of teams that would be interested, including division rival the New York Rangers, who I've heard mentioned before as well. They're likely going to be adding somebody who can play an offensive type of role, probably in a top 6 role, possibly as well. We'll see. I know there's been a link about Giroux. I've heard Riley Smith out of Vegas, but again, no guarantees what they end up doing because they do have to move some money out to activate Jack Eichel, but it's complicated now because Max Pacioretty's out long-term as well, so they have some more LTIR relief to work around, so kind of a delayed decision there. So hard to say what they do in Philadelphia, but the more intriguing part here today was that they also mentioned talk about Ivan Provorov and the fact that he has not been himself in the last couple of years have been really tough. Really ever since Matt Niskanen retired out of Philadelphia, he really has not been the same player, and he has struggled mightily. And it sounds like Friedman thinks that they would at least consider moving him for the right price. I don't think they're actively going to be looking to do it, but at this point, they have to really think about who's part of their future and who's not. And if they can get a good return and get him a fresh start, maybe it's something that they have to actually consider doing. It's hard to say, but Friedman strongly believes that Giroux will be moved for sure. I think Provorov is a little bit less likely, and if it is something that we see, maybe it's more likely for the offseason. But we certainly do expect some moves out of Philadelphia in the not-too-distant future as we approach the deadline. Now, of course, we'll get into this article from Frank Seravalli a little bit more in depth, probably over the next few days. But if you go to DailyFaceoff.com, it has an updated top 20 trade bait board. And jumping right to the top of that list was Tomas Hertl in San Jose. Hertl's been on many trade bait boards watch lists here for a while to start the season, but he skyrocketed to Frank Seravalli's number 1. Considering how much of a strong season he's having for the Sharks, he's on pace for potentially 35 to 40 goals. He can play center, he can play wing. He's going to be a player that's in high demand. There's no contract in place for an extension as of yet, and there's no indication that there's anything is imminent to get one done. So it does create a greater chance now that he will indeed be moved, considering we're not that far out from the deadline. Things could always change, and maybe the Sharks accelerate conversations around a new deal, and maybe he ends up staying. But right now, indications indicate that he's probably on the way out. Now, another interesting name that I found on this list today as well was Georgiev, the backup goaltender in the New York Rangers. Now, of course, you would say the Rangers are the top teams in the league, first in their division. Why would they move a player like their backup goaltender? Clearly, Igor Shesterkin can carry the bulk of the load, but you don't want to have your number 2 be, too far removed here. Like, you got to have a good package and tandem of goaltenders in case somebody gets hurt. However, the argument here is that Georgiev is almost like an unnecessary luxury to have, and that there's enough other teams out there that need goaltending help that they might be able to overpay and get yourself a good return, and then at the same time, maybe bring in another goaltender as a backup instead, maybe from a cheaper perspective. I mean, it doesn't mean, I'm not really convinced that Georgiev is going to get moved. I know when he wanted out, and he does, I think long term doesn't want to be there because he wants to get more of an opportunity, but I think that's more for the offseason myself. Georgiev is a player that, to me, he's had a decent year for the Rangers, played when he's called upon, it's done well. But at the same time, I don't know. I mean, maybe they do it, but there's some teams, I guess to put it this way, there's teams out there that might be able to overpay, and if they're willing to do something crazy, then maybe the Rangers have no choice but to listen, but we'll see where that goes. Columbus actually has 3 players here on this list, including Korpisalo, who's not a big shock there. We know he's likely moving on, if either at the deadline or at the offseason. Max Domi's on this list, as well as Jack Roslovic. Now, Roslovic's a bit of a surprise, but at the same time, maybe he shouldn't be. Roslovic's a player who was traded to Columbus as part of that Dubois-Lane deal and got off to a real hot start, but then has really struggled mightily ever since. And even though Columbus is home for him, they are believed to be open to moving him. According to Seravalli, he is somebody that they would certainly highly consider trading. I know there's been some wondering about the future of Patrick Laine in Columbus as well, and you have to wonder, with all these names being out there, will they maybe go for more of a rebuild here in the offseason and really make some more big moves here as time goes on. There's lots of other interesting names on that list, but of course that's all I really want to get into here for today. Like I said, there's obviously top 20 players. Obviously that covers off about 5 for right now. We'll get into the rest here over the next couple of days, but I'll link the article down below in case you want to check it out, and we'll see where things go. But of course, we're at that time of year now. We're into January. The deadline's March 21st, so we still have lots of time. But of course, we're at a point now where things are starting to heat up. There's more trade conversations taking place, and we should start to see more and more rumors circulate about where players might be going ahead of the deadline. So let me know your thoughts on everything discussed here today down in the comments, and we'll discuss further. If you're new to this channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. I'll keep you up to date with all the latest news, rumors, and analysis on all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.